So I'm very happy to introduce Carl Piva, who is an advisor to governments and cities and ICT companies, and has been a long-time supporter of the CEF building blocks. We've been very glad to count on. And Carl is going to discuss the City as a Platform Manifesto and the Digital Single Market. Carl, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Let's see here. So the first thing to note is having these wonderful digital elements, it really doesn't matter unless people start using them, unless they are used by organizations out there. And that is specifically why we created the City as a Platform Manifesto as a vehicle to pull together different stakeholders who might actually be beneficiaries of these type of open APIs and standards. So looking at let's say the city market in Europe, it's one that's defined by lots of challenges, as you'll see on the right hand side: pollution, waste, energy, congestion, health, civil unrest in some cases, all driven by macro factors like urbanization, increased income, aging populations, and so on and so forth. So having that as, let's say, the problem statement makes it easier to also identify solutions to that same problem. So what we find is, if you're able to collaborate between city ecosystems, then you're actually able to also come up with solutions to these type of challenges. And that often entails trying to solve, let's call it a vertical problem, with horizontal approaches and solutions. So if you can get city ecosystems to collaborate in smart ways, you're a good way to solving many of the problems that are critical to the success of cities today. So looking at the City as a Platform Manifesto, we took a hard look when we built it at the private sector, and specifically to platform business models around the world. It's a huge 4 trillion market with lots of successful enterprises. So what we did was we tried to extract the key principles from successful platform business models, and we tried to look at how to apply them to cities, driven by the use of open standards, open APIs, such as those provided by the European Commission in CEF, or by TM Forum, which is another non-for-profit industry association. And also later, as we'll see when Ulrich comes to the stage, are actually being implemented in open source solutions around the world. To date, we have roughly 200 cities and leading companies who have joined this movement that started a little over a year ago. And the idea is that the more that can come together around a set of, in this case, 10 principles, the easier it will be for these for these solutions to take hold, and also for the community to start learning from one another. It is always easier if you can find 10 other people who have done something to compare with and get best practice from. So taking a quick peek at how to sort of approach this problem. What if you were to compare with the Maslow hierarchy of needs that we're all familiar with? On the lowest levels, we all require food, water, warmth, rest in order to function. But the higher up we come, the more complex our needs also become. On the top level in the Maslow hierarchy, you have self-actualization as a fulfillment of your individual needs. What if you were to use the same concept for cities? I'm trying to move to the next slide here. Fairly unsuccessfully. Can maybe somebody help me do it?
Yep, we're on it, Carl. There we go.
Thank you. Perfect. So if you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs for cities, the one before, please. Yes. Then you'll see the same requirements for warmth and shelter very well below in the pyramid, which in our case is an ICT infrastructure that's possible to build something upon. And the higher up you come, the closer you get to urban actualization. It's really the top levels, how you pull together this multi-stakeholder governance model, how you curate the ecosystem that will eventually lead to the network effect that you're interested in the platform business model concept, that will actually dictate how successful you are. So going to the 10 principles on the final slide, I just wanted to touch briefly upon a few of them. So the first one is about why you do it. Well, you want to do something. You want to create a city platform because it will enable better services to improve the quality of life for citizens, and also benefiting the local environment and helping to bridge the local divide. That's sort of the fundamental piece of this who is involved in making this happen. And we see that this must clearly be a collaboration between the public and the private stakeholders in digital ecosystems. Moving on to principle number 3, it's about sharing principles, circular economy agendas. It's about providing ways for local startups to play a role in the evolution of the city. It's about enforcing privacy by design. It's about using city platforms to inform political decisions, and rather and not the other way around, not to spread disinformation as well, but actually help inform political decisions. It's about involving the city stakeholders in the right way, not necessarily as the creators and builders of these platforms, but definitely within the governance chain and their curation. It's about actually building them based on open standards to protect against special interest, apply industry best practices, use open APIs, and this is where the CEF building blocks come in play, along with the things from Fireware or TM Forum or other standards or de facto standards bodies out there. So having that said, these things can also become more interesting if you start combining them. So what if you could combine and federate data and services from cities that are close to one another? You could start seeing an integration also in that sense, creating regions, creating national approaches to common problems. And you can do that if you base these platforms on a set of pre-agreed standards like the CEF building blocks. And finally, also support some of the more core underlying principles. In this case, we picked out some key ones from the UN Sustainability Development Goals. So these 10 principles have been enough for 200 leading cities around the world, including leading companies, to come together and actually decide to undersign this manifesto. You're very welcome to do so. You just have to Google City as a Platform Manifesto, and you will find the place where you can do it. And once you join the community, you also have some pointers to some fantastic building blocks that will be used by this community going forward. So with that said, I'm delighted to leave to the next speaker, who will be talking about the collaboration between themselves and an industry association called TM Forum that focuses on implementing the City as a Platform Manifesto, but also some of its core components within its open source framework. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carl. So now we're going to move on to Ulrich Ahler, who's the CEO of the Fireware Foundation, which is a curated framework of open source platform components. As was mentioned by Nils earlier, Fireware is the solution provider for the context broker building block, and it's been a very fruitful collaboration, and the Commission is very open to similar such collaborations with further organizations building on this success. So please, Ulrich, over to you.